Welcome back to the White March. Again. I don't know why I said that. It's fine. I wonder how much has changed, and how much are kind of rehashes of what we had before. It's an in-between. Some of these characters are like, just kind of hanging around. Talk icon will appear on a champion's portrait. I kind of wish a talk icon popped up over the character's head. Maybe have it disappear during combat. But like, it'd be kind of nice. Sorry about that. If there's just like a really clear indication, there's no one here. Drug boy's gone. Did I ever accuse him of doing his drugging? Ager's bracelet. You reach into the barrel and find a bracelet. A thick aura of essence clings to it, fresh. With memory, you feel yourself drawn into it. In the memory, you stride into the fishery. The floors are swept clean, but the wood is still splotched with snow melt and fish guts. A man hunkers in the corner, his head nodding forward as if in sleep. He looks up drowsily as you approach. It's Grind. His face is youthful but sallow, and his hair hangs in stringy locks. You feel a pang of anger and pity at your brother's debauchery.
Arda.
Oh, Arda. Yeah, I was wondering why dialogue was happening. I unscrupulously just picked up the item and moved on because I read it as Adra, because obviously, because it's just a couple switched around letters, and I'm like, oh, it's just another Adra item, whatever. But it's an important character's name. His voice is little more than a croak.
It's past midnight.
Your throat feels tight. Grind wipes at his nose, then examines the mingled blood and powder on the back of his hand. He shrugs. Your fingers clench around coarse, thick fabric, your father's best wool cloak, tucked under your arm.
Go! To raid Ceres, or Defiance Bay, or fucking Air Glunfoth, I don't care!
You hurl it at the ingrate huddled on the floor. He picks up the cloak and looks at it with the same sort of dull wonder. He wipes his nose on the lining. A sudden rush of fury leaves your limbs weak and raw.
I'll tell them. Mayor Cena healed. The neighbors. Everyone.
You force the woods through your teeth.
About what?
He mumbles, churning his words from a morass of snot and saliva.
The stealing. You think I haven't noticed the money missing from the fishery coffers? Or heard Tana talk about losing a golden duke?
You whisper, afraid even now that someone will overhear you, and the words scorch your throat. Oh, no one told the voice actor they were supposed to whisper.
You can't be found when there's work to do, but every time those merchant wagons roll into town, you've got coin enough for a few bags of ripple sponge.
No, it's not.
Grind blinks back at you. He rubs his red-rimmed eyes. Your own grow warm and blurry.
Stalwart tolerates your sponge habit, but they won't abide your thieving.
You touch your bracelet, a gift from Mother, plucking at the beads.
You won't.
He rises, steadier on his feet than you would have thought.
I will.
I feel like she's about to get murdered. I wouldn't have shamed Mother and Father while they was living, but I won't let this keep up. Your anger swallows the last of your pity. Anger at him for putting you in this position, for doubting your resolve, for failing to see. You're close enough to smell his stale, sour breath when he pushes you. You fall, watching with widened eyes, and the ceiling spinning in your vision. This just isn't like him. Grinned with his fool tantrums, never thinking of anybody but himself. But now you're going to be nursing a headache for a week, just goes to show that you can't help someone. I think they forgot to put punctuation anywhere in here, right? Grinned. Where's the Where's the structure here? Grinned with his fool tantrums, never thinking of anybody but himself, and now you're going to be nursing a headache for a week. Just goes to show, you can't help some people, but you remember him too. Your baby brother running through the snow, slipping, falling on the ice, and you're slipping, falling, and there's a table behind you, but it shouldn't. I think it's supposed to be manic. I think they're going for a stylistic thing, but there's just so little stylistic writing in this game that it just comes across as they forgot to have punctuation. But instead I think it's supposed to be like a whole bunch of rushed thoughts that all blur together while you're falling back, and she's probably about to hit her head on a table and die or something. So it's like, isn't this just like him? Grin with his full tantrums, never thinking of anybody but himself, but now you're gonna be nursing a headache for a week. Just goes to show that you can't help some people, but you remember him too. Your baby brother running through the snow, slipping, falling on the ice, and you're slipping, falling, and there's a table behind you, but it shouldn't. The memory abruptly ends, jolting you back into the present with your heart hammering and your palms sweating. It abruptly ended because she hit her head and died, I think. God damn. The fishery door creaks open, and in walks Grind, staring at you, and the bracelet, in surprise and outrage. His face drains of color.
You take shelter in our village and then ransack it like a common thief? You'd better explain yourself!
His voice shakes, as do his wide, squared shoulders. The irony is that the game didn't call it thievery, which is why I clicked on it, because it didn't have the thief icon. Galvino told me you were a ripple sponge addict. Seems you're much more than that.
Any who'd put stock in the ravings of that bitter old fool deserve all the trouble they get.
His face flushes crimson. He raises his voice, half turning to the guard with him. Adra didn't fall. Arda didn't fall through the ice. You killed her. Right in this room. He opens his mouth to reply, but the words catch in his throat. The guard next to him stares at the blanket, the bracelet, recognition turning to horror.
Worth coming back for this alone.
It was an accident. I was a failure and a wretch then. But I never would have killed anyone. Least of all my own kin.
He turns his gaze down, offering his apology to his own clenched fists.
I gave her body to the lake. But I kept her bracelet, to remember the cost of my own weakness.
He loosens his hands and stares at the emptiness in his leathery palms.
I ain't asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve any. My penance is my work on behalf of the village, and they need it truly. You've seen the shape this place is in. Have mercy on Stalwart, if not on me. Let me do the work Arda would have done. That's my debt to Stalwart, and the only fitting way to honor my sister.
That's not for you to decide. You owe it to Arda, and to Stalwart, to tell the truth about her death.
Kept thinking I could get by this way, but I guess you're right. It's time they knew the truth about me.
He turns to leave, looking back at the fishery one last time. It's not his choice to make, and it's not my choice to make. No! I lost a third of my money to bandits again. We're back to shitty numbers. I gotta pay all my payments. Well, Akana's back with a bunch of money now. The crossed eye. It took extensive searching and inquiries across the 3 countries, but Kana eventually picked up the trail of the stolen Adra... How could I ever mix these words up? Ban Eye. Following the Broken Stone War, the Amawa thief traveled south to Abet, then on to Nasitak. Among the Boreal Dwarves, the thief found a wealthy buyer, the chief of a prosperous tribe. A generation later, the tribe fell on hard times and was raided both by Deadfire Archipelago pirates and pale elves from the white that wends. The pale elves sold the stolen eye to merchants from Old Valia, who took it north to the Prince of Darkozy. It remained there for 2 generations. When Darkozy Palace was sacked, one of the invading soldiers took the eye as a prize, carrying it across the sea to Ozia in the Valian republics. It was still there when Kana arrived. Though the wealthy patriarch who owned the eye demanded a hefty sum, the Glenfatha and Anamfatha did not hesitate to pay the price. Frost Patch. -2 accuracy, but immune to blinding? Huh. 10% damage to flanked targets. You're gonna rot in this cell, Grammarfell, for your crimes against my YouTube channel. Well, walking into this building was fucking eventful, wasn't it? And now I will ransack it. Haha. A lot of the deaths are gray areas a little bit. Not in who's guilty. He's clearly guilty. It's just that his guilt is tempered by confusing details. Like finding out that he was a drug addict who was acting in his state of addiction when he murdered someone. But not in like an explicit, I'm murdering this person with a knife because I'm going to kill them now. But like shoving them and then they fall and die. Which has happened multiple times. The guy that was in my jail cell until recently, didn't he shove somebody? If I remember correctly. I might be mixing it with somebody else. But I believe that there was... Huh. There's 2 different Orlans that were being pursued for their crimes. I think both of them might have... I think they might have both been... prisoners? No, the one that was here was a prisoner. The other one, the one in Defiance Bay, I think was, I think he was being attacked by bigots or something in a bar, and I think he was the one that shoved somebody, and so I helped him escape because all he did was shove somebody, and that person happened to die. But it's a similar situation somewhat. The context, it's interesting. They're like testing you on different sliding scale contexts a little bit, because one of them was somebody was being antagonized by somebody larger than them and being clearly threatened, and they shoved somebody and then they just happened to fall bad and die. And in this case, it was somebody with a drug addiction who lashed out against somebody that had been repeatedly dealing with their issues, and then they tragically fall and die. Like the level of blame you're willing to apply to one party or the other based on the context, the situation can vary from person to person.
This is going to be fantastic. Just wait till they hear about this back home.
I wonder if my second trip to this area will be shorter. I get the feeling it might be, because a lot of this stuff I'm looking at is like done after the first time I came by. This place looks different. I feel like the room of the shape of the room even looks different. This wasn't a Temple of Abaddon before, right? It was the...
Oh, come on! Stupid sword!
It was the people that would hide information. No, that's a weird way to phrase it. The god of forgetting or whatever, of forgiveness. The one that... I think it's wasn't the same one that Manejo's dealing with? It's a dense world to keep track of. I'm trying. I'm trying. But I don't think that this was Abaddon before. Yeah. There hasn't been a lot of Abaddon in this game. I wonder if the leaning back towards Abaddon is caused by 2 things. One, the fact that I found out they were all frauds, and so I kind of made them leave. And 2, so this was a vacant temple. But also because I reawakened the White Forge, which would be leaning back towards Abaddon in any way. Because their faith in Abaddon would have waned when it wasn't influencing their lives anymore. But the White Forge, I think I remember being the place where Abaddon created his artificial golem body, essentially. because he's the forge god, kind of. And so the reawakening of the White Forge would also reawaken worship in Abaddon and result in a temple for him. Although the idea that a blacksmithing business needs to be a temple is almost strange, but I don't know. Okay, now you're just pissing me off. She slams her forge hammer down on the unfinished blade with a loud clang. Straighten out, damn you! Temper, Masca. The older priest glares at Masca reproachfully. Sorry, master, it just slipped out. She takes a deep breath and releases it slowly. What's wrong with the sword? Where to begin? She gestures at the rapidly cooling lump of iron on her anvil. For one, I can't manage to shape the metal no matter how hard I try. Master Engram says envision a sword, so I'm envisioning really, really hard. I think I'm ending up with a club. Maybe a mace if I'm lucky, but no sword. If my work doesn't improve soon, they'll kick me out of the temple. Can't be a priest if you're not a proper smith. Unless you can help me. Musk glances around. I'm not a blacksmith. Oh, that's not the kind of help I'm asking for. I snuck a peek at Master Engram's lore books. Came across a ritual that can enchant a forge hammer to boost smithing skill. That's exactly the kind of edge I need. I've already completed the first part of the ritual, crafting the hammer. Unfortunately, the next two parts require travel to Deerwood, and there's no way Master Engram will let me leave anytime soon. Isn't crafting using a magical forge hammer unethical? I'm not trying to show anyone up, I just want to appear competent. You know, buy myself time until I'm actually competent. Not completely unreasonable. What I think is a strange reference point to go to, but I think of Hikaru no Go, which, back when I was subscribed to Shonen Jump back in the day, was a manga that I kind of read just kind of out of the fact that it was in the book among the other manga that I was more interested in. And so I just kind of kept up with it for probably a few years, actually. And in that story, the kid finds a Go board that's from ancient times. I think it was feudal Japan or so on, like Warring States period. And it there was like a blood stain on it. And it was because the ghost of a ancient Go player from back in the days was possessing that Go board. Yeah, it's a pretty nuts premise. It's one of those kinds of stories. So he starts being this ringer that goes around and wins a bunch of matches kind of illegitimately by just having the ghost play for him essentially and tell him what to do, because that ghost is better than basically anyone at Go. And so, like, you know, he gets a rival, which is somebody who's actually really good at Go, that's taken aback by how some random kid can challenge him, but actually it's because he's cheating with a ghost and so on. But, you know, he gets stir crazy and disaffected with the fact that he's just a vessel for this ghost to play the game. So he starts to actually training with the ghost to learn Go correctly and actually be able to challenge these people with his own skills instead of just by having the ghost play for him. And so at first, so it's kind of a fake it till you make it thing via an artificial tool that makes it look like you're making it sooner so that you can go on, so you can continue with the path you want in your life. But eventually you start actually making it because you actually become competent, because you actually have the drive to figure it out. But you just got to deal with the fact that, you know, you just aren't making it. That's not everyone who does that kind of cheat, though, has that kind of goal. Some people will just fake it because they can fake it. I better get back to it before Master Engram gets annoyed with me. Why did you decide to become an acolyte of Abaddon? It's a family tradition. One I've managed to keep going. She glares at the unfinished sword on her anvil. Barely. I'll complete the forge hammer ritual for you. That's great! She hands you a forge hammer. That hammer actually turned out alright. The first place you'll need to go is the Shrine of Abaddon in Crucible Keep. That's in the First Fires District in Defiance Bay. I've never been there myself. Just place the hammer at the shrine, and it should be blessed. or something. After that, you'll need to find the Shrine of Magran in Magran's Fork. It's not far from Defiance Bay. To the north of the city, I think. Do the same thing with the hammer at that shrine, then head back here. Farewell. Are we gonna go do a good deed? Yeah, we are. That's apparently what we do. Miala's drawing. Oh, it's in quests. You've bamboozled me. This lightly singed piece of paper has a charcoal drawing on the front. Can I see it? Examine? There we go. Aww. That's charcoal, alright. Very smeary. Very, very smeary. Get out of here. You're not supposed to be in that inventory. I don't even want to look at the sheer number of items lying here. I should have thrown them all in the stash just to spare myself. Engram nods at you and smiles in recognition. Ah, the kindler of the White Forge. We owe you a great debt for the industry and faith you've restored here. Welcome to the Temple of Abaddon. What do you do here? I lead this temple and guide the acolytes in matters both spiritual and mundane. He indicates the forge and anvils. Worshippers of the gods pray or meditate. We Abaddonians venerate our gods through the act of smithing. Our doors are always open and our forge always alight. How may I help? This used to be a temple to Andra. He tilts his head to one side. Back when this was a dying, forgotten place. But the clerics who tended it left, as is customary of their goddess. The throngs, who have since come to stalwart, sought a more practical deity. Farewell. So you can tell on her, or you can go help her, and hope that she's somebody who's actually going to make do on her promise of becoming what she's pretending to be, and all that. Interesting little metatextual thing going on here of like the way that like religions and faith can shift based on the environment they exist in, and that the demands for particular religions and so on can just straight up change when the environment changes so abruptly. This was a forgotten place where things were where people had bad prospects moving forward, and a lot of it wasn't looking great. And so it was kind of nice to take solace in this religion that kind of was all about forgetting your regrets and your past and just the bad things that have happened to you in general, and just kind of trying to move forward instead of agonizing over your mistakes or your tragedies. But now it's a booming industry place full of immigrants, and everyone wants to get in on here, and they've got a primary resource, and like business is booming and times are changing, and economic growth demands a different religious belief. All right, what did that say? After several attempts, Lord Sidrock's rivals gave up on raiding his vaults. Having reclaimed his lands, Lord Sidrock sends you his regards and his gratitude. Hey, success. We did it. Shrine of Abaddon. It's apparently in the keep. Oh, the Crucible Keep, right. Right, yeah. Because they created golems. Stalwart sends a plea for assistance. They've been attacked by ogres and fear they could be sacked any day. I appreciate being able to teleport directly to whatever district I want in a town instead of having to go to the front gates first, just because travel takes a while. Not nearly as long as, like, you know, World of Warcraft or whatever. but you know, loading screens and so on just kind of don't add to the experience of going somewhere and doing a quest. So it's good to move forward. Near the rear of the keep. Thank you for the directions. There's also a straight up message though telling you where it is. I mean, a waypoint. Shrine of Abaddon lies before you, smelling of metal and oil. Bless Muska's Forge Hammer. You place Muska's Forge Hammer at the base of the shrine. For a moment, nothing happens. Then you hear the distant ring of hammers striking anvils, tens, then hundreds, then thousands, all in unison. Muska's Forge Hammer suddenly flares with light, and the chorus of hammering fades away. You retrieve the hammer, and though its appearance hasn't changed, it feels heavier somehow. Gotta say, this is definitely one of the universes where it's easier to believe in the gods. That's often more of a thing in a lot of fantasy universes, is that the gods have a more heavy impact, and so you can more easily observe that they are real and not just an abstract concept people kind of just bring up to deal with their struggles and needs, or their needs for guidance and so on. Whether you believe in gods or not, there's not a lot of like concrete moments that you could where you can provably be like, ah, yes, they're clearly real. Whereas being able to like bless your hammer at a shrine and many of the other god interactions that are in this game are like, oh. And then the supposed killing of a god and all that.
That was way too much black sun.
A slaver's here. Great. Why did I come back? I went the wrong way. I'm an idiot. I just wasted a bunch of time traveling all the way back here when that's not the correct thing because I'm supposed to go to Malgrin's Fork. Fuck. That was me leaving. That's me leaving the keep. Might as well rewind the clock. I could just go there from here, but canonically having like 2 days pass because I forgot where I was going isn't exactly a reasonable thing in universe. Sure. It's a lot harder to incorrectly walk to the incomplete wrong.
You hit your own father?
Not I. That was Isilmir.
Yeah, but you're the same person.
Fine cock's feathers to that!
I see your point.
Yeah. It's easy to misclick and misremember what you're doing next for like 30 seconds. It's a lot harder to continually not notice you're going to the wrong destination for like a day. With a party of people who also all know where you're going probably, and are like, why are we going back to the ice place? We're supposed to go to Malgrin's Fork. Here we go. The Shrine of Magron. I'm sure Durance would be like, this person didn't earn it. Like last time. The ash-covered Shrine of Magron stands before you, the scent of charred wood still lingering in the air. The temperature around you begins to rise, and before long you feel as though you're standing in front of an open forge. Muska's hammer begins to glow red hot. Suddenly the ground near the shrine erupts into columns of living fire, flame blights. In the sky, winged shapes dive towards you, smoke trailing from their wide open jaws. Oh, so Magrin could do something. If you're a Magrin follower, you can do something here, but otherwise... Fight though! Well, time for danger. Oh, there they are. I was like, you said something was coming at me with its wide open jaws. Did they just... We're gonna have to have a talk about this. It seems y'all forgot to mention that also a horrible thing is going to happen when we get there. I don't really appreciate that. Did you just ignore my command? I wanted lightning. Why didn't you lightning? Chain lightning killed. Is it gonna bounce? Chain lightning, why didn't you bounce? Fuck it. Chain lightning keeps disappointing me. Hey, Maneha leveled up. Fun. You're getting there. I'll have to remember when I hit level 16 as characters that I have to spend all of their skill points because we're never leveling them up again. Like that's my final chance. I have a chance to level up athletics one last time. Next level. Blooded. That's the low one. Sprint. That's a sickening. A shout. Attack speed when you kill things. I wish it was per enemy, not per 2 enemies. It's an AoE when she dies. This is basically the vengeful defeat, but once per encounter does it on purpose, essentially. I had the storm. I don't think we're going to be encountering a lot of low-level enemies. I'm fighting a expansion that's scaled to me and then doing an ending. So it seems counterproductive to get a talent about not being able to be engaged by people that are lower level than me. Dragon Leap's always a fun option. Echoing Shout. I think these last two are probably the new ones. Echoing Shout. The barbarian projects his or her rage into a wave of energy that causes crush damage and dazes everyone in its path. If the shout strikes a solid surface, it will bounce once. Yay. 35 meters, so it probably will bounce in most situations. AoE. So it's got to be a line shout. It only dazes though. Still, reduced accuracy and dex, and intellect and perception, and attack speed. That's not a bad stat to have, and it's a big spike of damage. Bloodthirst. After killing an enemy, the barbarians... Oh, that's the one where you attack again. That one always seems disappointing. I want Echoing Shout, I think.
Uh-huh.
Right here.
Yeah.
How are we doing? Do I need to interact with it again? That's enchanted. Where is the item? Should be way the hell down here in quest items. Moska's Forge Hammer has seen a lot of use, but from what she's told you, it hasn't been used well. Well, hopefully she will be able to capitalize on her successes here. Hopefully she doesn't make this whole thing pointless. Or get caught. Come on, guys, haul your ass. Let's get out of here.
Your party before venturing forth.
You must gather your party before venturing forth. 5,000 messages. What was I about to say? Oh yeah, we're talking about the magic and gods and so on. One universe that...
Next time we get the chance, I'm buying you a pint. That means a lot, Adair. Oh, do you want one too? Sorry, I meant for Isilmir. I'll get you one too.
How do you only get one of them one? I can't tell if Adair is joking or not. Which is funny because he's voicing both lines in that conversation, including Isilmir, although she didn't say anything that time. I think the universe that rides the line on believability of gods is that it does, it's Game of Thrones is the universe that, like, I think a lot of the people in universe don't get a ton of evidence to, they don't usually get a ton of evidence of the gods actually acting, but because we see the perspective of all the most important stuff that happens in that universe over the course of the Game of Thrones books or show and so on, we see a lot of instances of gods doing things. In particular, the Red Lady doing just straight up whipping out magic a few times over the course of the show, which, because of the rarity of godlike interactions, led to a thing more akin to... It led to a situation where the viewers kind of pushed back on the show a little bit when the magic showed up because they thought they weren't watching that kind of show. But really, it's just because it's the kind of universe where that kind of stuff is rare. But still significantly more measurable than the modern world and so on. Kind of like how things relatively seem like it's just a bunch of real-ass people doing fights and stuff in Lord of the Rings, until Gandalf the Grey becomes Gandalf the White, and that kind of arc happens where you're like, okay, this is a very different... like, I remember being surprised by that as a kid, because everything kind of felt more concrete, aside from maybe the Dark Lord himself. But like, while there were wizards, something that extreme and more deity-oriented happening was definitely something that was like, not something you're fully prepared for going into it. Hey there, hope you're not having trouble with that ritual. You could have warned me about the flame blights and drakes. The what now? Nothing in the ritual mentioned any of that. Maybe they just happened to be in the area? Here's the hammer. If it summons anything else, that's your problem. Just in time, too. I was supposed to be done with this sword yesterday. Okay, Magic Hammer, do your thing. She raises the hammer and prepares to strike the unfinished sword. Watch. Muska swings the hammer down hard, and both blade and anvil ring with the force of the blow. The blade's metal ripples like liquid as it shapes itself into a proper sword. Muska grins and nods at you. But the ringing continues, becoming more and more shrill, and just as the sound becomes unbearable, the sword shatters, scattering metal shards across the room. Oh, busted. This is all for naught, wasn't it? Talfir's ritual. Haven't seen anyone try to use it in some time. He glances at you. You had help, of course, but doesn't change the fact that you were the instigator, Muska. Is there any reason I shouldn't immediately cast you out of the temple? No, Master. Muska's eyes are fixed on the floor. What about you? Angrim turns to you. You made yourself a part of this. Is there anything you wish to say in Muska's defense? All errors can be reforged into lessons. One of Abaddon's affirmations, if I'm not mistaken. A valuable lesson for Muska, wouldn't you agree? And I can fucking claim to have actually read this because I've actually read this, because I've actually been reading the books to justify my own lore stat in-game, is that I've been reading the books in reality too. Would that more of my acolytes actually read the book? Angrim smiles. Muska, this stranger has preserved your position within this temple. See that his effort was not in vain. I won't. Thank you, Master Angrim. Muska gives you a little smile. And thank you for getting me a second chance. Here. A gift for you. One of the very first things I forged. That sounds like... That sounds worrying. Now, I need to get back to work. I've still got a lot to learn. The unlabored blade. Well, that was entertaining, if nothing else. Ooh. It's garbage, isn't it? It's a dagger, one-handed. Nobody used daggers in my party. Huh. Starts off weak. Let's see, you're using random weapons, essentially. So if anyone's going to use a dagger, it's probably you. Let's compare here. They're fast, fast, fast. So compared to this guy, similar damage, slash versus pierce, but basically identical damage and speed with a rapier. +5 accuracy, +5 accuracy. But this one's superb, and this one is not. Obviously. No, this one's superb. I'm an idiot. Just didn't see that at first somehow. It's not even bound and it's already superb. Wow. Okay. So this one has damage against prone people. That's the main thing, is we lose that if I switch to this. Because these are both enchantments, I can just put that on... Well, we can't put those on this actually either. But, this could be entertaining. There's the Edge of Reason. Bonus crit. It would be nice to give her a weapon specialty, finally. So maybe we should give her the weapon specialty of whatever has daggers. Which is... I don't know what that is. I don't know, we have until she levels up next time, I guess. I just realized, like in-game, I don't know how to look up the talents. I don't think I can. But like the talents for accuracy based on weapon type and all that. It'd be nice to maybe do the one that has the dagger in it. Might make some sense. I feel like the healing is probably useful for her. Helps with her tanking. And bonus crit multiplier is nice. I probably want to keep the Edge of Reasoning for now. Bind. Deal 100 slash damage to enemies to unlock the next level. I'm a little worried because it's called the Unlabored Blade. Meaning untested. So a concern would be the idea that, like, what if the blade shatters after relatively little use? Maybe it just gets weaker. So we'll see. Let's not overcommit, but I'll see this quest line through and see what happens with this particular weapon. I like these little progression weapons and seeing what they turn into.
Yeah.
Not quite where I thought that whole thing might go, but it went places.
Yeah.
The Iron Flail has folk up in arms about foreigners, and not just raid Sarens. I'm hoping everyone will settle down once they're dealt with.
He gives you a tight frown. Yeah, that was the rabble rock. Don't question my floaty skull.
Welcome. Have a seat by the fire if the cold's gotten into your bones.
Yep, this place just kind of exists. This is the previous encounter. I also wonder if there was a more even distribution of quests originally, but if maybe some of the White March Part 2 quests that were added in that content update might have been included in the first phase of me being here, just because they didn't have any reason to wait until the second time through. It's possible. In particular, I thought I heard of one of the companions being White March Part 2 exclusive, but I got all 3 companions in my first run. So it might be that some content came with the second DLC technically, but if you have both, then certain content might just show up in the Part 1 trip just because it doesn't feature, it just doesn't have any reason to wait until later. Because it just isn't reliant upon the plot points of the development between Phase 1 and Phase 2, for example. Run for mayor, they said. It's an easy job, they said. I should have stayed in the mines. He notices you approach, and his eyes widen. Jaskier, what brings you back to Stalwart? You're always welcome here. He beams at you. What was that about negotiation? There's a group of merchants from Defiance Bay interested in a trade agreement with Stalwart. Their representative, Nesta, is staying at Gref's Rest. I've been avoiding her because I have zero experience with treaties and contracts and all that. I was a miner, not a diplomat. Maybe you could talk to her on my behalf. He looks at you hopefully. As mayor, I'll give you full authority to negotiate on Stalwart's behalf. What makes you think I'd do any better than you in the negotiation? You're the hero of Stalwart, the man who reclaimed the White Forge. Of course you'd do better than me. I'll go talk to Nesta then. Thank you. As I said earlier, you can find her in the Gref's Rest. I'm pretty busy, so unless there's something else. How's Stalwart doing these days? We've rebuilt. The western palisade is fixed, and some fancy merchant set up shop where Katie's house used to be. He gestures at the temple. We've also got a proper temple to Abaddon again. Never understood why the Andorites stuck around Stalwart in the first place. Farewell. Really? Never understood why. I mean, they clearly had some level of demand around here. They were busy. So it's almost like it's what the people wanted, which is kind of how these kinds of organizations tend to work. It's almost like maybe I have a better finger on the pulse of this culture here than you do, Sean, to some extent. You never understood. Small-ass settlement. You think you could spend some time figuring these people out? I don't know. Barely injured. Nesta. Just, yeah, she's the one that I mentioned before about how worth investing in this place is. Please sit. She looks around the tavern. I could use company. Tarfo sent me. I'm here to negotiate the trade treaty on Stalwart's behalf. Finally, I was beginning to wonder if Tarfos had forgotten about me entirely. My first stop is Stalwart's fishery. My clients are concerned it's a liability to Stalwart's prosperity. I'll meet you outside its front door. Oh. Okay, we're going to assess the entire village, apparently. This will be interesting. I guess I'm just going to be a salesman, right? I'm going to try to put spin on all this shit. Because I don't know anything about their fishery. Or how good of it is being a fishery or whatever. Like, I'm some dude that doesn't even live here. And also doesn't really do normal labor. Because I'm an adventurer. Ooh. Gods, it's freezing out here. Let's get this over with quickly. I'd go inside the fishery, but the smell. Ugh. I'm also regretting having the fish stew at the inn. One of the fishermen said they found a body in one of the barrels once. Yeah, but he's over here. He's fine. If you have a more uncomfortable place to nap, I am willing to accept suggestions. According to the town's records, the fishery doesn't export much these days. Why do they keep it open? It's an unnecessary drain on resources better spent on the White Forge and the mines. Closing down the fishery would help convince the investors that Stalwart is serious about maintaining its prosperity. The fishery keeps Stalwart self-reliant, less expense in acquiring outside food. That's a pragmatic answer. I'll see that the fishery remains open should any objectives against it be raised. I'd like to have spoken to the head fisherman, but it seems he was run out of town. Normally that would be of great concern to the investors, but it seems the fishery is prospering in his absence. Oh well. Oh, that's what happened, as he was run out of town. Never really got to see a hint of what happened, really. I'll be heading over to Starward Mines next. My clients are concerned about the security and safety of the mines. Meet me there when you're ready. This is a task, isn't it? Yep. I don't have a particularly strong leaning going into it of like... He didn't really give me much of an agenda, so I'm just kind of politely and escorting her around and offering what little insight I have, which is not a lot. If you're looking for Mila, tell Royce I haven't seen her. Someone needs to keep a better eye on that girl. Meet me there when you're ready. Did I walk by her back here? Nope. She must have gone inside. Have I been inside before? I feel like they might have been closed before. Maybe she's inside to show me there. In fact, maybe this is kind of a quest that can help you direct you at side quests you might have missed.
No, please! You've got the wrong man! I don't remember any of this!
Quiet! We'll get the truth out of you soon enough. Take him away!
A stern-faced woman approaches you. Her already impressive frown is only emphasized by her slight underbite. She folds her arms. Nesta mentioned someone will be coming along. Be careful where you wander. These mines are still crawling with all sorts of pests. We haven't been able to clear them out yet. Of course, you have experience with that sort of thing, I hear. Guess we have you to thank for opening the battery. I'm Ismay, the foreman. We've been keeping busy around here since the battery's fires were lit. A little busier than I'd like sometimes. What's going on here? Things are hard enough around here with the local wildlife. Last thing we need to deal with was a murder of all things. Looks like you caught the person responsible. Looks like it. We found Gamel by the body of another miner, Sameth, but that's not quite the end of it. We've lost quite a few miners recently. Most just vanished. Sameth's the first corpse to stick around. We may have caught Gamel, but we haven't been able to find the bodies. You know, if anyone can help us put this all to rest, it's you. I'd like to be able to give these miners' families some answers, even if it's bad news. Tell me about Gamel. I don't know him so well. Certainly never pegged him for a killer. I'd say you're better off questioning him yourself. See if he'll tell you where he stashed the corpses. What do you know of the victim, Sameth? Poor Sameth. His body is up the tunnel to the east. Folks say you've got a knack for making sense of corpses, like the Dunrid Row sorts, right? I'll look into it. I appreciate the help. We certainly need it. I have a few questions for you. Sure thing. What do you want to know? About the missing miners. Did you find anything out? That's the same dialogue as before, but reorganized. Why are these mines so important? The demand for ore's gone up since you opened the battery. Everyone wants their own shiny piece of Durgan steel. Thing is, the battery was hit pretty hard by the tremors. With the battery mines collapsed, we're the only game in town. How are the mines holding up? The beasts aren't going away anytime soon. Now that Gamel's gone and killed somebody, folks are probably starting to think we should just abandon these tunnels again. Ah. A murder. Still, they said there's beasts? Seems like it could easily not have been a murder. It could have been a random death due to the beasts, as they were.
You see Gamel?
How could I miss it? Looks like he went swimming in Samuth's blood.
Blazes. Never would have pegged him for a freak.
Never would have pegged him for a freak. I must have either I missed the character who I was supposed to meet up with here, or you do the quest first and then she shows up finally, or I missed, or both, or who? Ow. It's fine. I got plenty to do, so we'll just look into this next. But also, the Deerwood, Part 4, Hadrit's Rebellion. The rural communities loved Admeth Hadrit, considered him the best leader they'd ever had, and Adir, the Fairkonig, rankled, that's a new one for me, rankled against his usurpations of imperial authority, but no longer had the necessary power to truly undo anything that had happened. 2 years later, in 2664 AI, the Fairkonig found allies willing to explore the ruins against the treaty conditions, and plundered them for their artifacts. This was done discreetly at first, but they eventually became careless. The agents were discovered and arrested, but there was no evidence pointing back to the Fairkonig. Admeth, suspecting the truth, used Glenfathan Brishalgwyn mind-hunters, the progenitors of modern-day ciphers, to investigate the matter further. With this method of interrogation, he discovered a chain of evidence all the way back to the Fairkonig. While he investigated, many rural communities suffered retaliatory attacks from Glenfathans. Armed with this new information, Admeth worked with Galvin Medhra, the new leader of the Glenfathans, and the rural communities of the Deerwood to prevent the Fairkonig's agents from entering the ruins. There was a back and forth between the two groups, both sides engaging in various political, economical, and military maneuvers to try to gain the upper hand. The Fairkonig was at a disadvantage in this game, though, as he preferred to assert his authority without causing an uprising. Eventually, Admeth had enough. He convinced 7 of the 9 Earls to join him, and they severed their allegiance to the Fairkonig, declared themselves independent, and decreed they would govern themselves, just as the Valian Republics did 20 years prior. Admeth told the people he had tired of policies that made the nobles rich while putting the people of Deerwood at risk. He declared himself Duke, again modeled after the Valian Republic's governing structure, and called the Deerwood a free Palatinate. Thus began the War of Defiance in 2668 AI. The war lasted 4 years and caused countless casualties, including Admeth himself. The Deerwoodans, with their Glenfathan allies, were able to persevere. Glenfathan astrologers, alongside the Deerwoodan forces and members of the ad hoc Knights of the Crucible militia, won the Battle of Defiance Bay, which became the last battle of the war, and left Deerwood free from Adiran imperial rule. 7 of the 9 Earls of the Deerwood survived and, unified in purpose, signed treaties with the Fairkonig of Adir. The war gave the Deerwood a greater sense of unity between its citizens and their Glenfathan allies. Admeth Hadrit was revered by both groups, and the Deerwood enjoyed for the first time a nationwide fellowship of independence, perseverance, and sacrifice. Yenwood and Swinsrun were dissolved and incorporated into the surrounding earldoms, leaving 7, Hellsgate, the Grasp, Tenfirths, Norwake, Coldwater, Ashfall, and Balereach. New Dunrid was renamed Defiance Bay, and would become the seat of power for the new Duke in Balereach. The new Duke's rule began in 2672. So Dunrid Row has a more particular connection to the original name for that location. It became called Defiance Bay after the name of what they called the War of Defiance. This is all very thinly veiled as being an allegory to American independence and the War of Independence, specifically where the colonies had their declaration of independence and broke off and fought back against British rule until they surrendered and the United States became their own country and all that. Yeah, this is Then they wrote up their Articles of Confederation. It'll be hilarious if we go forward, and then they put out their big declaration of like of independence, but like it'll be their certificate of defiance, and then they have like their first version of their rules of how all of these individual colonies will all work together in a confederation. But then that didn't quite work out, so it was a short-lived thing, and then they made a constitution of some sort, but like called different. It's called something slightly different, and with the Bill of Rights.